Welcome, one and all. Get ready for the Clash Royale League in North America. Today's first match features all-star CMQ and the second-ranked red-hot Cloud9. Across the river, Tribe Gaming, a playoff contender in need of a W. This one is anyone's game.
Another rematch from early in the season. Last time these two met, that man right there, CMQ, swept Tribe Gaming, taking out J Monty, Oxalate, and B-Rad. But today there's a new wrinkle in the sheets for Tribe, and that is Tommy making his way into the lineup here. A last-minute addition to surprise their opponents, hoping to change the fate of his squad. Hello and welcome back to Clash Royale League. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me is Andrew Guy, and today we have a big one for you. Two teams in separate matches at the top of the standings, Complexity and Cloud9.
Yes, absolutely. We got Cloud9 coming up first here, and with a win right here, right now, they would take first place from Complexity. However, Tribe Gaming in that fifth place spot with a win today puts them in playoff contention.
And you can see those top three teams also close, 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, and that's critical because our playoff format really benefits the number one and number two teams. The number two team, of course, getting a first round bye, and that first place team at the end of the regular season getting a first and second round bye in our playoffs, a straight shot to the World Finals potentially. So this afternoon, the number one team, Complexity, will be facing off in a big-time moment against Counter Logic Gaming, but right now in front of us, we have Tribe Gaming clinging to the bottom of those top four spots up against the number two, Cloud9.
Yes, number two, we have Cloud9, CMQ, Wings, Baron, and Trainer Chris. No big changes here. On the other side of it with Tribe, however, we've got B-Rad, J Monty, Oxalate, and who's that? Tommy making his CRL debut in Week 6 in this Power Week, this push for the playoffs. Surprising, Rich.
Tommy, a big-time player, lots of competitive experience. We'll get into that later. But right now, he and the coach Elke are standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. So, question of the hour, Tommy. Why are you joining the team today? What's the strategy?
¿Por qué ingresaste al equipo hoy y cuál es la estrategia?
Pues ingresé al equipo porque por temas de visado, que no podía venir aquí a LA, pero al final sí se dio.
He joined the team because of visa troubles. Like he had some issues, so he joined a bit late, but he feels confident for today.
Now, I noticed you had the Nicaraguan flag. Can you tell me why you brought that today?
Dice que se dio cuenta que tenés la bandera de Nicaragua y por qué la trajiste.
Sinceramente la traje más que nada porque siento que los voy a representar y quiero dar lo mejor de mí para representarlos.
He brought it because he's the only representative of his country here, so he wants to give his best to represent his country in the CRL.
Gotcha. ¿Y finalmente tienes ganas?
Yes.
I'm excited too. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Tommy potentially changing everything for both squads, how they had this thing planned out. Tribe Gaming, of course, happy to have such a fantastic player in their lineup. Cloud9 having to make some changes here, not expecting to see him today, so this will be big. Let's see how these coaches will handle this inside the war rooms.
They obviously need this win a lot, so they're going to come out with everything they have, but we're prepared for the 2v2. And Baron, do what you do. Chris, support from the bench.
I don't think so. I'm rooting for Tribe.
No, but let's just go out and play our game. It's the beginning of a very important week for us. Let's make it happen.
We need to go into this super week confident, and we need to play and enjoy the game and have fun. Okay? Tommy, sos el nuevo acá, así que vamos para hablar en español. Es un poco confuso todo, pero es básicamente jugar 1 versus 1 versus 3, nada más. Es lo mismo que jugar en casa, pero jugar allá. Okay. Lo mismo. Así que, try win, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, bro.
3, 2, 1, try win! Woo!
Sometimes, we as fans get lucky. We get to see the best in the world go head-to-head. Well, this is one of those times. CMQ and Wings in one corner, J Monty and B-Rad in the other. Get ready for a 2v2 instant classic.
The last time these two teams faced off, it looked very different. It was Baron and Trainer Chris for Cloud9, and J Monty was, of course, paired up with Oxalate. Tribe took that sweep, and now a whole lot looks different.
Yeah, CMQ coming into the 2v2 set with Wings here. Wings being 2-3 in 2v2 sets. However, CMQ has yet to win a set of 2v2. He's won one game, but not having a ton of success. And of course, their opponents, J Monty and B-Rad. B-Rad 1-0 in 2v2 sets. J Monty 4-3. A ton of experience, still trying to find that winning combo. And now with Tommy moving into the lineup, you got to think it's a little bit harder to strategize against who exactly they'll be bringing to the table.
The card bans for this set, Tornado off the board, courtesy of Cloud9, and Lava Hound will not make any appearances in our potential 3 games.
Yes, so you gotta expect some of that Golem Breaker deck. Not just Golem Beatdown, but Golem Breaker. We gotta see the Golem and something to stop the Golem push, and in turn, usually we'll see Royal Hogs in there, something to create a counter push.
B-Rad has been fantastic here so far in CRL. Looked great with J Monty in 2v2 last time. Can Magic strike twice against Cloud9?
Go.
J Monty and B-Rad for Tribe at the top of your screen. CMQ and Wings representing Cloud9 at the bottom.
And it looks like immediately we see Cloud9 running a double log bait deck.
So trying some different stuff here, Andrew.
Yeah, we saw some success, I believe, from Surgical Goblin and Diego B in week 1 running this type of deck, but it literally only showed up in week 1.
I don't remember if they ran it here or if it was just in that YouTube video they put out for the 15 win challenge. Because we were so excited to see that, we thought, wow, 2v2 could be anything. And then we had those first 2 weeks of primarily Golem.
Right, absolutely. And we definitely have seen some log, but not much. And the thing about log bait here in 2v2 is there's usually so many spells in your opponent's hand, your deck becomes easily manageable. However, the very fast cycle behind it makes it a little tougher because Elixir spawns slower in 2v2.
So last time these two squads faced off, Wings was not in the regular lineup for Cloud9. He was set in the King of the Hill lineup, but CMC ended up sweeping that entire thing. So we did not get a chance to see Wings face off against Tribe, though there is some history here. Wings did lose to B-Rad at CCGS last fall.
Yeah, and you know every single one of those losses hurt, and you also know that these pros hang on tight to those and remember them here on the CRL stage.
So the first minute and a half away, and it is Cloud9 with a slight lead, but their left-hand tower also in danger.
So since Tribe doesn't seem to have a Golem, they're running this double P.E.K.K.A deck. It's interesting because you'd almost think one of them wishes they had a Golem at this point, playing against this log bait deck. That big beat down push is something that becomes a lot harder to manage in double Elixir.
One important fact here with B-Rad being in 2v2, you know, he's known as the Miner player. He does Miner Mondays on his YouTube channel, which is growing quickly right now. A fantastic Miner guy, but in 1v1, playing Miner so much can get a little bit predictable. But here in 2v2, Miner is firmly entrenched in the meta. It appears in pretty much every deck, but you don't have the same, it doesn't end up being as predictable because, again, so many cards in the mix. A great place for B-Rad to use that skill set.
Yeah, I mean, you got one of the best Miner players in the entire world, and it's a card that is so effective. 64 hits, every little tick with that shovel, and it's hard to pick up. And as you see right here, it's going to get 2 more on that tower, 3 even, and that's just great value right there.
And you can hear the communication coming from the players. They are talking relentlessly, making sure they know who's picking up what. 8 seconds left here.
And you even heard Tribe. I don't know if you guys can hear them at home here, but they were yelling, log, 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 log. And I don't know if it's because they didn't have a log in cycle or whatever it was. 70 HP left on that tower, but you saw that rocket and goblin barrel come in by Cloud9, and it was not picked up by Tribe. That 70 HP left over became a lot bigger when that happened.
And so even one more swing of that Miner wouldn't have helped, but the snowball did push it off. So here we go. There's that moment with the rocket, and there's no log to stop the goblin barrel there. Now keep a look on the bottom left. I guess we're pulling away from the replay for a second. The bottom left of the screen, a snowball went in there to pull the Miner off the tower, but unnecessary 64 HP damage versus the 70 that was on the tower.
Right. I mean, it's only a difference of 6 HP. You never know if another spell or something is going to come in, but that was too close for comfort for Cloud9. It almost feels like they got away with one there, Rich.
They might have stolen one here, although Tribe on the other side of the board, running a deck that a little bit more difficult to get damage on, but we'll see what they do here in game number 2. As I was saying, you were talking about that double P.E.K.K.A deck and trying to find their way through the Miner and the Poison, doing some good job. But now take a look, Andrew, a little change there.
Yeah, there's that Golem working its way in, but there's absolutely no way Cloud9 runs that Logbait deck back to back. It's just... They really got away with one in the first game there, and running it again would not be a good idea. However, you got Tribe here now running the Golem and not... And I mean, we're just going to have to see how it goes, because I'm not sure exactly what Cloud9's response is going to be to it other than the Inferno.
That's certainly a good response, but you got to expect there's at least some reset opportunities. But okay, look at that. Wow. Miner getting a lot of damage on the right-hand side.
And a lot of value off that Fireball, cleaning up the Flying Machine and the Magic Archer.
Well, the first half of the season was not super kind to Cloud9 in the 2v2 set, but as we've moved closer to playoffs, they have really begun to turn things around.
Yeah, Cloud9, one of the teams recognizing that the focus on 2v2 it needs to shift from focus on 1v1 to focus to 2v2, because right now we're doing so well in 1v1, but we're struggling in 2v2. You don't want to miss playoffs because of a game format specifically, and Cloud9 changing, getting back to the drawing board and changing around their focus, now in second place.
You know, Cloud9 playing fantastically even with those 2v2 lapses. You know, only taking 2 losses so far on the season, but they probably feel like if they'd had 2v2 sewn up earlier that they could still be undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone to King of the Hill almost every single time they've stepped out onto the battlefield here, Rich, and with how much talent they have on their roster, you don't want to leave it up to chance, and that's really a big part of King of the Hill. If you have a bad matchup, that's game.
So entering double Elixir time, and now it's a double Golem push coming down for Tribe Gaming.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see how exactly Cloud9 cleans this up. Because if you look at Tribe's hand, they don't have actually a lot of Elixir to support their push, but you got 2 Golems. They don't really need a lot of support. And then I figured a Miner would come in. Great job of sending it to the Dark Goblin, though.
But not a lot of Elixir to clean up these 8 Royal Hogs. So if they can get free, they may be able to change this thing. 5 Royal Hogs in the left-hand tower. Both towers now for Tribe Gaming down under 1,600, but might that be too little too late with only 30 seconds left in regulation time?
Yeah, those Swarm Troops did a fantastic job of cleaning up that massive Hog push. Now, I like the 8 Royal Hog push, but sometimes if your opponent's expecting it, which you've got to think Tribe was in that moment of losing a tower for C9, that they were going to send everything they had, and Tribe was just ready and waiting, and they dealt with it very, very efficiently.
Interesting choice to send the Royal Hogs on the stronger side rather than the weaker side, but at that point you got to think that Cloud9 knew it was just time to regroup and get ready for game number 3.
Yeah, they just wanted to avoid any sort of defensive troops and just get as much damage as they could on the tower, but as you said, there was no way they were going to actually take it down. And now, splitting the first 2 games in the set is Tribe and Cloud9.
And there, take a look at the replay. It's that big double Golem push, and just as you think there's no support coming in, the Fireball taking out a lot of that stuff on the right-hand side, and the Miner with a little bit more support here, and then somehow of surviving this 8 Hog push.
Now, the only thing that I would have changed in this entire interaction would have been if those Royal Hogs got more damage, I would not have sent in the Miner as Tribe was, because that's 3 more Elixir that they didn't even need. The Miner wasn't really necessary. The Dark Goblin would have still taken out the Goblins, or those Goblins or Golems would have still taken out the Princess Tower. Didn't end up mattering in the long run, and now we are at an interesting position, Rich.
Yeah, last time it was Tribe coming out on top in 2v2. This time Cloud9 very close to writing the script in the opposite direction. So game number 3 on its way.
I love those emotes.
OP Royal Hog emotes for sure.
Oh, wow, and look at the hand of Cloud9 going back to what they're running in game 1. Now what's going to be interesting to see is, never mind, I was going to say if Tribe was going to run a P.E.K.K.A and a Golem, but they're going with the double Golem once again.
And an early double Golem push, so committing a lot of Elixir to the left-hand lane.
And I believe that is because Tribe immediately recognized that C9 is running back the same initial deck, and this double Golem push is going to be really hard to deal with early on.
They are choosing to take a lot of damage, though, on the right-hand side. A very nice support, but down to 868 is their right-hand tower.
And you've got 1.5 fully healthy golems with an Inferno Drag coming in and 2 miners going on to King Tower because they don't care. They know the tower's going to go down. Cloud9, I believe, just got out-decked, Rich.
And the Inferno Dragon getting locked and not getting taken care of, so a lot of damage there.
And here's the thing is Tribe can just keep bringing the heat because C9 has spent so much elixir defending. There's basically no way for them to come back from this game. Yeah, I mean,
down to 12-21, so pretty big play here for Tribe. J Monty and B-Rad really clicking together. And at this point, look, we've seen crazy things happen here in CRL. Maybe something nutty could happen, but down at 956, like you said, it's got to feel like this one's over.
Yeah, I really am thinking that C9 is regretting running back this deck. I mean, I think it's a really great option for a first deck choice, but the amount of counters and the lack of beatdown responses puts C9 in a crippled position.
And you can see now it's about to be night-night here on the left-hand side, building up for the final golem.
And here's the thing is Cloud9 still has to allocate elixir taking down that right tower, whereas Tribe just sees that and they're like, cool, you're going to go spend elixir over there, we're going to drop a golem right here.
And the fireball clearing out the way, so with the miner in support, this could be the last push, the poison jumping on top of it. And that will very soon be just a couple of spells cycled through, a 3 crown, but Cloud9 going, look, we're going to get some respect back and try to take one of your towers before we let you guys close this thing out.
300 more damage. And Cloud9 is going to really have to take this in the 1v1 set and once again push it into the King of the Hill position. Tribe in a commanding lead.
We've all thrown that frustration rocket there at the end. And look, let's be very clear. CMQ and Wings did play very well. That last matchup, matchup very rarely a big issue here in 2v2, but that last one really felt like it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's not quite as debilitating as it can be in 1v1. However, you look at this and you're like, well, I don't know, because this matchup seemed pretty brutal, and it was. There was just really, I mean, Tribe immediately recognizing early on that the double golem unsupported push, basically with just an Inferno Dragon, was going to do everything that it needed to against C9. They just had no way to come back, Rich.
And they were forced to play that fireball to get rid of that Inferno Dragon. So at that point, another 4 elixir down, kind of hurting their prospects on the right-hand side. So even tying it up and trying to play defense at that point was a tall order.
Yeah, and that Inferno Dragon had been alive for so long that Tribe had gotten all the elixir back that they'd ever spent on it 10 times over. So J Monty and B-Rad taking that 2v2 set, and now we're in a very interesting position with Tommy making his CRL debut.
And this is where Cloud9 didn't want to be. They didn't want to be in a situation where a guy that they maybe haven't prepped for as much, they don't have as much opposition research against, that they're against him in 1v1. And remember, he has all that analyst research on Cloud9 behind his back. So a tough spot for Cloud9. Coming up next in 1v1, it's Tommy versus Baron.
The 1v1 showdown is upon us, and this, my friends, is where legends are born. For Tribe, a new face enters the fray. Will Tommy be a star in the making? Or will German veteran Baron give him a rude welcome to the CRL? Let's find out in the arena!
Wearing the flag of his home country, it's Nicaraguan Tommy facing off against the German Baron.
Yeah, Baron for C9 has played almost 25 games here at CRL, giving Tommy a ton of game tape to study. So Baron in a slight disadvantage today. I talked to him before the match. He said he was gaming for someone else, obviously. And then you got Tommy coming in for Tribe Gaming, making his CRL debut. Now, all the players recognize him and know of his name, but they didn't know if he was going to show up here. And he hasn't played at all in CRL, so they have no idea what he's going to bring to the table today, giving him a huge advantage in my mind, Rich.
The card bans for this one, Cloud9 taking Tombstone off the board, and Tribe Gaming saying no to Royal Hogs.
Yeah, I mean, the Tombstone is the best response to the Royal Hogs. Seeing both these cards taken out of the game is going to bring certain types of archetypes to the game, whether it's going to be things like Golem Beatdown, whether we're going to see some Three Musketeers with a regular Hog, who knows?
Can Tommy be the big surprising note? Tribe Gaming here looking to secure that 4th place spot against the number 2 Cloud9. So Tribe Gaming's Tommy top of your screen, Cloud9's Baron at the bottom. Now, let's qualify some of this. Tommy has not been here at CRL, but he's a player that these guys do know because he has a lot of competitive experience. He's the champion of ESL Latin America, RPL World Champion with Arena Casito, also top 16 CCGS, barely missing the finals qualifier and a final game lost to Pompeo. So there is tape on this guy. The big difference is their analysts haven't been compiling information specifically for this moment.
Yeah, and what the teams have learned from week 1 to right now is almost impossible to put into words. And that still, even though Tommy has had appearances in other events, this is the biggest stage there is, and we have not seen him yet.
Baron, no slouch, though, of course, we've mentioned many times before, 2nd and 5th at CCGS EU, also a CCGS World Finalist. And here at CRL, a total head-to-head win rate of 7-3. He is undefeated in 1v1 sets for his squad.
Yeah, and he's running that very popular Giant Miner Poison deck right now. And for Tommy, with that regular Hog Rider, very interesting composition he's got.
Hog Lumberjack, a combination you see a lot in ladder play, not as much on the competitive field.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got a spell in there like a Fireball, but it is very interesting to see how this deck is going to fare against this Giant Prince Miner deck.
Well, with no Tombstone, easier path to the tower there for the Hog Rider. And, you know, if we're looking at some of the defensive answers that Tommy has, you can see the guards doing a great job against the Prince. With the Inferno Dragon and Lumberjack together, there's some solid answers as well for the Giant.
Yeah, it does really feel like Tommy has matchup in the sense that he has all the answers to respond, and he only has to send in the Hog to get damage. The Hog doesn't need any support because there's not a building to pick it up. There's not a NATO to pick it up. Even with the Hunter, usually it'll get a hit, and right there it still gets a hit. And this is a big, big problem for Baron.
Baron, though, not spending a ton on defense, so allowing him to make some huge pushes on offense. And now, with that Giant and the Poison, taking that left-hand tower down to 403 with just 30 seconds left. So Tommy better get 2 or 3 swings here. The Fireball backs it up, so down to 357. Now with just under 20 seconds remaining, this getting very tight. Tommy might lose a tower here in a second, so what can he do to get back in this? Will he take that left-hand tower with just 14 seconds? This is a very tall order.
I really don't enjoy the way that defense was played there. It felt like he kind of gave Baron an opening. It seemed like he had the elixir and the responses, but just didn't apply it the correct way. And now we'll see if he does a little bit better of a job this time in managing that Mega Minion Giant push.
Baron electing to not defend that much against the against the Hog Rider, instead making that right-hand push, but Tommy stopping it before it gets really much of anything done on that tower.
And you saw the slight adjustment he made, dropping the guards instead of the Ice Golem to tank for that Mega Minion, in turn keeping the Mega Minion off of the Inferno Dragon long enough for it to take out the Giant.
And those guards were perfectly timed, picking up the damage from the Prince, getting the Lumberjack long enough life to get across tower, or across the river, and now potentially at the Inferno Dragon on tower. The Prince picks it up, but a pumped up Hog Rider making a beeline for that tower as well.
Yeah, and really, really fortunate for Baron that Inferno Dragon went down when it did. And so this is what I'm talking about is, again, that Mega Minion is getting on top of the Inferno Dragon, and he got away with one this time, but that was the reason why Tommy lost that initial first tower.
So a minute down in our overtime play. The Lumberjack played by King Tower, but so fast. We've talked before about how even when not played on the pickup for the Miner, can still pick it up with its fast pace.
Yeah, very quickly there. And the Miner getting chopped down very, very efficiently by the Lumberjack. And now that Giant push is coming in once again. Lumberjack and Inferno Dragon there to meet it. A great zap and Miner by Baron, though, to get the Lumberjack on top of the Miner, just allowing that Giant to get one hit.
And the Lumberjack goes down, raging up for one hit on that by that Hog Rider. So now ahead by about 450-ish hit points on the right-hand side is Tommy.
Yeah, and Tommy really should have this game in the bag if he continues to recreate the same transactions he's been doing, which is defend, 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 send in Hog Rider, and defend. That's it.
This is a lot, though, making a beeline for the tower.
And that Inferno Dragon was just far enough across the river.
And the Giant getting two very important swings right now. And this is why you see that combination on, especially on ladder so much, because that Hog Rider with just a little extra boost from the dropped Rage Spill can change things so much, get to the tower so quickly, very frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, and Baron now recognizing he's probably not going to be able to take this game. He's definitely going to keep trying, but that Hog Rider and Fireball combo is just too much for him to deal with.
And now Tommy just in range to cycle back to his Fireball. Not a super fast cycle, but he will have enough time to do it, I think.
Yeah, and that great log there. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. This is crazy. Baron,
oh, wait.
Look at that breath of relief coming from Baron. He cannot believe that he got away with that.
Wow, I can't really shocked right now.
The urgency, I felt like I said it early on with that very first tower defense where that Giant got through, and right here, I believe, is where we see it. Yeah, we see the zap there, retargeting, the Inferno Dragon going down because of the Hunter, and that Giant getting way more hits in than you want it to. But that urgency that you need here in CRL seems to be lacking from Tommy. Maybe it's just first day jitters.
Let's try to run through this whole thing here. So he gets, I'll keep an eye on the Elixir. He's at 3. Now he gets down the guards. 8 seconds left, gets the log down. And
so that log should have been a fireball on the opposing tower.
No, but the fireball wasn't in cycle, I don't think. I think I was counting. I might be wrong again. I have to watch it one more time. But I think that he was 3 cards through his cycle and couldn't get back quickly enough to get that final fireball down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We don't see the cards that are in hand, but you could be totally right. That right there is a huge, huge squeak-by draw for Baron and Cloud9.
So here we go, game number 2 of a potential now 4 games between Baron and Tommy. I mean, you can hear how stunned we are. We are both sitting there going, okay, it's just Tommy's cycling back to a fireball. So I'd love to look through that tape one more time at some point and really break down how that cycle was working out and if Tommy made a defensive choice or maybe there's a misinterpretation of the lowest tower rule. I'd be surprised if that was the case. I really think it was he couldn't get to his fireball fast enough.
And one thing I can say for Tommy is, let's say his fireball was in hand and he did make the misplay of not fireballing the tower for the win. He still did a good job of not losing the game. I mean, it's always a better outcome to have a draw than a loss.
Sure, but at this point with a guy like Baron across from you, a draw could be just as bad as a loss, giving him an opening to take this thing.
Yeah, and Baron recognizing the missed fireball there on the Inferno Dragon, which is going to allow that battle ram to connect. Doing a ton of damage. So now it could be one of those situations where Baron kind of got away with one in game 1, and now maybe Tommy is looking for revenge in game 2.
So Baron playing the slightly heavier deck. So far, not mounting any significant offense as we're about halfway through regulation time.
And you got to think there's going to be a balloon in Baron's hand, and Tommy has decent responses with the zap, with the poison. We saw how effective the zappies coupled with the poison in the Inferno Dragon was earlier today.
And Tommy looking to get, and again the battle ram gets on tower, so Baron not having the responses for those plays.
And he's got 2 zappies on his left tower, which he is forced to ignore, but now he's in a situation where both of his towers combined are below 900 HP. Even with the beatdown deck, that's not a good position to be in.
And the Ice Golem kiting away the Inferno Dragon support, so very perfect play with that by Tommy, and then of course that will get eaten alive by the zappies in support when it turns around.
And that's more the type of fireball Baron was looking for. However, in the position that he's in now, it might be just not enough.
And now with just 36 seconds left, you got to imagine Tommy is not going to make the same mistake twice. he does get that left-hand tower down. So now it's about playing good defense, not making any mistakes here, and making sure that if he has to, he gets that right-hand tower down sometime in the next 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of defensive options. That fireball completely misses the Inferno Dragon and 2 of the 3 Zappies. That is it for Baron in this game.
Baron acknowledging that that's GG's, and we see the Battle Ram get to the tower once more. So Tommy with a fantastic performance in game number 2. Look, he played really well in game number 1. I still want to talk at some point about that fireball situation. Yeah. It's one of the, again, you guys heard how stunned we were. We thought it was game over there. So you have to think about now for Tribe Gaming, they should be in all thought processes done with this match right now.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, Cloud9 has had something to say about that. And we're here in the replay, we see that very first missed fireball, which kind of set up this Battle Ram push that kind of put Baron behind the crosshairs the entire game.
And again, it's the Battle Ram just keeps getting through, and there weren't a lot of ground responses. The Valkyrie, the Miner's not really gonna do a whole lot defensively that way against a Battle Ram, so not a lot of ways to deal with that card as it charges towards the tower.
Yeah, not a great matchup for Baron in that second game here. You forget because the first one was such a long draw, but now going into this next game, I mean, what do you think Tommy is gonna bring us?
Who knows?
That was the hardest that I've ever had.
That's very difficult. Who knows? He's the wild card here, and that's what Baron's dealing with. Now remember, since we had that first draw, if Baron wins now, we go to a 4th and final game. Your ban cards one more time. It's the Tombstone and the Royal Hogs. So Cloud9 having to go with kind of a general ban here, and not really preparing a ban specifically to put their opponent on anything because, again, they don't have that wealth of opposition research that you get from their analysts. And their analyst, Adam, has been kind of an all-star as of late, really helping the team get some big-time wins. So it's got to be frustrating, not just for the players, but for him as well.
I mean, we've seen how much these analysts have done for every single team here, moving farther and deeper into the season. In weeks 4, 5, and now 6, we've really heard teams changing up the strategy, changing up card bans. And again, Cloud9 was frustrated today when they found out Tommy was going to be in the lineup because they had no way to strategize against him.
And looking very much like a mirror match so far between Baron and Tommy for the 3rd game. I don't know why, but when the E-Wiz says electrons, it makes me laugh every single time.
It's a nice little nugget.
Royal Ghost now going to go incorporeal, and these two will pass each other, and that's going to be a couple of swings on the tower.
Yeah, and some of the best matches we've seen here at CRL have been these mirror matches because it really comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's strictly gameplay. And that was a really nice push for Tommy.
Not just mirror matches, but over the last couple of days, it's really been bridge spam matches that have become these pitched battles back and forth.
Well, bridge spam is just so strong right now. It has so many great responses, and that Battle Ram, honestly, as you saw in the very last game that we just watched, was such a menace for Baron to deal with. I mean, if it connects, and then 2 healthy barbs with the increased tack speed, it's just a lot.
So now we're in double elixir time. The action should get fast and furious here. The P.E.K.K.A.s will meet on the left-hand side.
And one of the biggest thing about these bridge spam mirror matches is getting your P.E.K.K.A. the most value, and that's when it starts to swing in one direction or the other. And so right here you see Baron's P.E.K.K.A. is going to take out that Battle Ram, and with that Electro Wiz and the Princess Tower, it's going to take out that P.E.K.K.A. and stay moderately healthy.
So you had the Battle Ram pull trying to get the Bandit over to the P.E.K.K.A., but it ends up costing a lot for Tommy.
So now Baron has a 2 elixir lead, which isn't massive, but this is the beginning. This could be the beginning of a downward trend for Tommy.
Tommy's P.E.K.K.A. makes it into play quickly enough. That Bandit on the left-hand side getting picked up last second by that P.E.K.K.A. as well. So both these guys of course, they know these decks very well inside and out because they both trained these decks extensively, and that's why they're playing them here today.
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm talking about here, Rich, is both these guys recognizing the biggest and most important thing is getting value off their P.E.K.K.A. So you saw Tommy taking off that entire incoming wave, but in turn you saw Baron kiting the Bandit and then his P.E.K.K.A. going towards Tommy's P.E.K.K.A.
And you see the two bandits cancel each other out there, but one surviving, the other not, because again, where that battle takes place.
And Tommy doing a great job using that battle ram to kite. That was really the big difference maker, was that one battle ram and Bandit or Electro was connecting early on for Tommy.
So Tommy's aggression paying off early, taking that left-hand tower down to 10-23, but since then it's been Baron whose patience seems to be doing a little bit more because he's forcing the battles to take place in range of his Princess Tower rather than on the other side.
Yeah, he's controlling the combat here and determining where he wants it to happen, not where Tommy does.
And now a Battle Ram seeing the P.E.K.K.A. out of cycle, trying to see if he can slide one through. It does not make it. Little heads-up play there by Baron.
Yeah, and that was a very, very nice defense by Tommy.
Now with a minute 30 gone already in overtime, this starts to get very squirrely because we already have one draw and a win for Tommy. So unless I'm incorrect on the rules, I believe that if Tommy draws this, that would be an overall set win. Will we go to a fourth game if that's the case? So let's say we would go, if this does turn out to be a draw, we go to a fourth game, which I'd have to check with League Ops whether that's under tiebreaker rules or whether, yeah, so they're giving me the thumbs up, under tiebreaker rules. So Baron in a very interesting position now. He can play for the draw, and even though he's a game down,
and now,
but I don't know if he can anymore.
Yeah, wow.
And now we see that Battle Ram, if it gets connection, that could be the game. He doesn't quite, but the poison down, and this should be it. Good night, Cloud9. Tommy comes through, closing things out for Tribe Game.
Wow, and that did not really feel like a two-set sweep with things going back and forth for so long between the 2v2 set, the 1v1 set, the draw and the 1v1, but Tommy having an incredible CRL debut against Baron, and you know Cloud9 is frustrated at the fact that they did not get to game this man, and that man just made him pay for it.
And there's the early push in our replay, the poison cleaning up all the defensive troops, and it's the Royal Ghost getting on tower, doing a lot of damage. The cycle's the same because the decks were the same, spent elixir pretty much equal. So here you go, Tommy taking this thing, and as I was saying, that was an interesting situation because Tommy, Baron, if he had played to a draw, would have sent it to a fourth game that even though he was down one game, it would have been under tiebreaker rules.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we haven't seen yet here in the 1v1 sets, which is absolutely crazy. So now you see Tribe Gaming completing the sweep over number 2 Cloud9, which again pushes complexity farther away from the rest of the pack. But this is a huge moment for Tribe, Rich.
Tribe Gaming now definitely in the hunt for the playoffs in a way that maybe seemed somewhat more precarious earlier in the season.
Definitely.
And, bringing in Tommy certainly paying off right here. I still want to know about that fireball in game number 1 of that 1v1 set, so maybe we'll get the answers right now because Tommy is standing by with our friend Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. I mean, taking Cloud9 in a sweep for your debut, how's it feel?
Ganarle a Cloud9 2-0 en el primer día de CRL, ¿cómo se siente?
Súper bien. Súper satisfactorio.
No translator needed?
Yeah, okay.
Very good, very satisfied. I got that. Now I have to ask, in game 1, it went to a draw. What happened with that last fireball? You didn't get there in time or what?
No me quise arriesgar para la bola de fuego. Prefería el empate antes que arriesgarme para ganar. Ya después salió todo perfecto. En la última, de hecho, estaba esperando el empate también por daño. Iba a ganar, pero al final se dio.
In the first game, he was trying to cycle the fireball, but he realized that his cycle was too slow, so he preferred to defend and go to the tie instead of risking every part of the game that he played really well to win. And in game 3, he did the same, but the last push win. So.
You got to learn from your mistakes, and boy, did you learn. Great game. Thanks so much for talking to me. Felicidades, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. So there you go. It was the cycle. Couldn't get back quickly enough. Made a smart choice. And again, we're talking about what happened here in that first game, the draw. The third game, a confirmation with League Ops that Baron had the option, a win or a draw were the same thing. Either way, it would have sent him to the fourth and final game.
Yeah, and obviously that's never a position you want to be in. However, Baron definitely would have taken that over the outcome. Now, as we hop into our standings, we look and we see what has happened. Cloud9, with that loss, is now tied for second with Immortals, but Tribe Gaming move up into that fourth spot for real. They've got it locked in, but the next game with CLG and Complexity coming up could move things around once again.
Tribe Gaming now not only in that fourth spot and 4-4, but with a game in hand over TSM, who is 4-5. So kind of in control of their fate at this moment, a luxury not everyone has, but a team that has been in control of their fate the entire time and now has a chance to put their stamp on number one. It is Complexity facing off against Counter Logic Gaming.
Who wants another? You do, I do. Let's do it! In Game 2, Backstab X and Counter Logic Gaming aim to stop their slide down the standings. But it won't be easy. Adrian Piedra and top-ranked Complexity Gaming are primed for action.
Counter Logic Gaming hungry for a win to stay in the playoff picture. Geo now gone back-to-back 4-game sets in 1v1, taking a win and a loss in one of the best games that we've seen. Adrian Piedra, the 1v1 specialist for Complexity, beat Royal in 3 games against Immortals and almost got the reverse sweep, but unfortunately taking their first loss was Complexity. Match number 2, one team in the hunt, one team at the top. It's Complexity versus Counter Logic Gaming.
Yes, Counter Logic Gaming today coming out with Backstab X, Skills, Laddie, and Geo have had that incredible nail-biter match. And of course, Complexity at the very top. We got Colton, El Jefe, Razzer, and our boy Adrian Piedra.
Two teams kind of seeming at their best. Of course, Complexity going to that crazy game with Immortals for their first loss. Geo and Vulcan in their last match putting on a 1v1 show. And a guy who's no stranger to head-to-head success, starting off the season with one of the most unprecedented records here at CRL. It is Razzer standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. So you are coming off your first loss to Immortals. How are you going to avoid going on a tilt?
Well, it was really close. We were disappointed on how close it was in the loss, obviously, but we're ready to come back. We've practiced really hard the past week, and I think we can go on another tear.
Now, you have already played and swept CLG. Tell me, how is your strategy today different from the first time you played them?
Well, today we made a couple new changes that we were going to implement, and I guess we'll just have to see how that turns out.
New changes? You're not going to tell me what they are, though?
It's top secret, sorry.
All right, well then, answer this final question. Are you going to win?
I guess we'll have to find out, but I think we can.
Very diplomatic, and we will see today. Back to you guys.
Humble in victory and confident in defeat, it is Razzer, who, of course, at where they are in the standings, 6-1, has to feel pretty good. A big part of that, of course, being their coach, Matt Rutledge, making his team work very, very hard. What words of encouragement will he have inside the war room and across from them, the guys for CLG?
Talk a big game. Big game.
No, Gio?
No. No. Come on.
Let's go, boys.
CLG on 3.
1, 2, 3. CLG!
Second half of the season. Let's go, boys. We got a lot to prove, all right? First half of the season went well. Doesn't mean a thing, right? Does not mean a thing. You got to go out there and play to the best of your abilities today, just like we do every single day, okay? We're prepared for this. We know that CLG is a phenomenally talented team. They beat Cloud9. We have to go out and perform. We've got to play our game, play confidently, play in control, and have communication, right? You guys are unbeatable when you have good communication, so don't forget that. Play to the best of your abilities today, okay? For 2v2, we've got Poison NATO ban For 1v1, we've got minor mega minion.
Yes.
All right? Let's go out and execute this. You guys know you can take it, okay? But let's not play around. Let's go dominate, guys. Let's do it. Let's go. Bring it in.
1, 2, 3, complexity!
In the 2v2 arena, no one has done it better than Coltonw83 and Razzer. Will they return to glory after their first CRL loss? Or will Backstab X and Skills serve them up another helping of defeat? Complexity and CLG, it's time for battle!
A very experienced set of players here for this 2v2. Colton and Razzer, of course, have wowed everybody in this first set of CRL. Backstab X and Skills, Backstab, one of the more experienced guys here, playing fairly well with the young upstart.
Yeah, Backstab and Skills here, as they said before, they communicate basically telekinetically when out on the field in 2v2, saying very little and getting a lot of success out of it. And their opponents, Colton and the Razzer, these guys are basically the best 2v2 duo we've ever seen here at CRL, especially in NA. However, both of these teams favor in the clone spell, Rich.
They have played well with that little bit of trickery there in the 2v2 setups. The ban cards here, Poison and Tornado. And I got to compliment you there on giving Razzer the Razzer. It's like the University of Texas. He's not just Razzer, he's the Razzer.
Yes, he really is the Razzer, and it is very interesting to see what these two teams are going to bring to the table. It's week 6, it's Power Week, it's the push to the playoffs, and everything matters here.
Game number 1 on its way of 2v2.
And we got a Witch and a Golem push coming down the lane, meeting that giant skeleton.
Colton and Razzer top of your screen, Skills and Backstab X at the bottom. And, you know, Colton and Razzer have shown some creativity, but really it's that they've shown consistency both in playing smart deck choices and in playing them very well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about any professional athlete, and consistency is what separates the great and the legends from the good. Complexity very, very happy with this opening push. You can hear their coach, Matt Rutledge, on the bench. One of my absolute favorite coaches in the league in the sense of motivating his team.
So the last time these two teams faced off in 2v2, Colton and Razzer beat the Backstab Geo combination in 3 games. This time a slightly different look here in Backstab and Skills.
Yeah, and with that season loss early on, if Complexity takes the second match today, that does give them this season sweep over CLG. And Rich, moving into playoffs, what does that mean for them?
That would mean that if for some reason they were tied, Complexity would have the advantage, being higher ranked on the board. Although at this point with Complexity at 6-1, it's hard to imagine them losing so many games that would be the situation.
Absolutely, and that first place position, getting that first and second round bye is so monumental.
So entering double elixir time, CLG has made it a little bit closer, taking that tower down to 15-22.
You know, I got to admit, I love seeing the Witches, I should say, because the Night Witch is in Complexity's hand. I love seeing it in 2v2. I think both of them have a very strong presence here.
You know, already pretty powerful cards in 1v1. They do see a lot of play, of course, primarily in this beatdown meta, although if you're more towards the middle of the ladder in the 4000s range, you see Witch a lot more, maybe with some unorthodox pairings.
Yeah.
But it seems like here in 2v2 with so much big stuff up front, the Witch lasts even longer, if you can imagine.
Yeah, well, what's so great is that if you have double Witches on your side of the map defending, wow, and that is another big push by Complexity. What I was saying, though, is if you have the regular Witch on your side of the map and it meets a Golem, those Skellies just pile up on your side of the river and they keep coming, really making very fast and easy work of tanks.
So now with 3 seconds left and that left-hand tower down to 395, you'd think that maybe that fireball might want to shift a bit more towards the tower coming from CLG. Colton and Razzer, of course, a lightning making things a bit closer, and the golem's on tower. So while it seems like Colton and Razzer within spell cycle range, they need to do something quick so they don't lose their tower and lose the first game.
Yeah, it felt like the game was out of reach for CLG, but all of a sudden, really quickly coming back in it, but not enough. Too little, too late, and Complexity, Colton and Razzer back to doing it best. Now remember, these guys have only ever lost 3 games out of 16 in 2v2 sets.
Their overall record 13-3-1 in 2v2 games, and now moving to 14-3-1 with that victory here. And going back to what works really well, it's the Graveyard Freeze, supported, of course, by that big tank.
Yeah, Graveyard not really making a huge presence in the 1v1s. I mean, it's been around a lot, but not having a ton of success. However, here in 2v2, with that freeze, coupled with the Golem, it can be devastating.
And that's the big difference, Andrew, as you said right there, is coupled with the Golem. The Graveyard meta in 1v1, it just gets really, really expensive when you pair it with big tanks.
Yeah, and you can't ever really pair a Graveyard with a Golem or a Giant or a Lava Hound. It's just too expensive of a push, and that's why it succeeds so well in 2v2.
Yeah, you have that huge tank, and now you have you have to respond not just to the Golem, but to the Graveyard Freeze as well, so your defense kind of pushed in all different directions. Well, here we go. Coltonw and Razzer doing it one more time.
Double baby dragons in every single
Matt Rutledge for Complexity. You hear the "Let's go, boys," the rallying cry of this squad, and so far it's been a good one, leading the team to 6 wins and 1 loss. The 2v2 of Coltonw and Razzer, just the amount of work they're putting in, paying off in droves. And while they've gone to King of the Hill a whole bunch, you have to say that 2v2 success is a big part of why they're where they are right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I honestly love that I never know what deck they're going to run, Rich. I'm never just like, oh yeah, that deck is what they're coming out with. It's always something slightly innovative, something a little bit new. And I also really like, again, CLG running with this double witch. So these 2 witches are going to make good and easy work of most of those incoming ground troops, and then in turn they're going to try to push with the Lava Hound. However, they didn't get that second witch down, and now Complexity once again early on striking with a huge presence.
And this is what they do very well, is, you know, they play decks that have standard elements to them, but between game and game they make slight tweaks that force their opponent to respond in ways that they're like, okay, we're seeing Golem again, we're going to respond this way, but no, it's just a little different than you saw last time.
Yeah, it's always a little bit different, and that's one of the reasons why they are the best 2v2 team here in the NA. And now we see that clone spell coming in, as we mentioned during the card bans for CLG, probably hoping to catch Complexity off guard. But that is a undefended Prince and Golem for the most part, just on your tower.
Yeah, being forced to worry about defense rather than offense, so...
And that tower would have went down a lot quicker had that witch not been there and the Prince was distracted by those skellies.
But it is backstab in skills now, creating a push in the opposite direction, but that Lava Hound in real trouble a little bit earlier than they would have liked.
And there's that early clone to see, let's see exactly how Complexity deals with this. And they have the Magic Archer and the Baby Dragons, plural, to deal with this push. However, CLG getting a lot of tower damage.
So we are in the final 47 seconds, deep, or partway through double elixir time. Coltonw and Razzer playing well so far, but they have to be careful. We've seen how much burst damage can be done if you don't properly defend that skeleton barrel clone combination.
Yeah, and you've got to wonder if a double Golem is going to come down in the left lane, just sacrificing the right tower. That is what I would do. However, you've got to stop the 3 crown. And you can see, yeah, CLG doing a great job with that clone, demanding a response, because you could see that Razzer was trying to queue up his Golem.
Although picked it up pretty well, and the snowball getting in, but the Prince now getting on tower as well, so that's a ton of damage in the left-hand lane. Coltonw and Razzer doing it one more time.
So I wasn't 100% correct in the second Golem coming down, but they did sacrifice that tower, defend just adequately enough on the King, and they created a huge, huge push. Great sportsmanship from backstab and skills, but not quite the gameplay to get them through.
You know, anyone taking a look at that last match with Immortals saying that Coltonw and Razzer were done, the magic was broken? No. Look, these guys, you can say that they've had a couple of close calls, but there's a reason why they keep on winning, and that's their skill set, and they proved it here again. These guys just play so well together.
100%, Rich, and this is that last little push here. They sacrifice the tower on the right and in turn push hard on the left, and that is a lost tower and a lost set for for backstab and skills.
So there we go, moving into 1v1 on the backs of Coltonw and Razzer one more time. And this is a big moment here because early in the season, Adrian Piedra, their 1v1 specialist, struggled a lot in these moments. And so the 2v2 wins helped them because when he didn't perform to his best, they go to the king of the hill, and then someone would step up, whether it's Colton, whether it's Razzer, or Adrian in some situations. But as of late, Adrian has been killing it in 1v1, so we'll see how he fares now up against the Italian 1v1 specialist for CLG in Gio.
Get your fingers ready, both in the arena and at home. You out there, use your digits to light up the chat as the Aztec Eagle Adrian Piedra and the Italian Stallion Gio prepare to use their fingers to wage war in the 1v1 showdown.
This is going to be a barn burner, Rich.
We just saw Gio and Vulcan from TSM put on what I would contend is one of the best 1v1 sets we've seen so far. That bridge play with the spam decks going back and forth, so tight. And that really is that experience should help him a lot here in the pressure situation against Adrian Piedra.
Yeah, so for CLG, we got Gio coming out after that 4-game loss in a 1v1 set. An incredible play, putting on a clinic, him. And then we got Adrian Piedra, as you said, struggling a little bit in the beginning of the season, but Coach Matt never gave up on him, kept him in the whole time. He's turned that record into positive at 4-3 in 1v1 sets and has established himself as one of the best here at head-to-head play.
The ban cards, again, it's Mega Minion and Miner, so two card bans you expect maybe designed to both reduce deck pools.
I love how we see these changes in card bans almost from week to week. It's almost as if all the analysts see the same thing every week and they're like, all right, we got to change it. And now next week we got to change it again. And with new balance changes coming up, you got to imagine it's going to change once again.
Complexity now just 2 games away from moving to 7-1. Gio hoping to extend the life of CLG and preserve those playoff hopes.
Let's go, Adrian.
And every time a game starts, Andrew, you hear the bench of Complexity. These guys are all in 100% of the time.
And that is so important. As you hit that mid-season lethargy, you get exhausted, you get burnt out. And Complexity, recognizing from day one, you got to keep your team excited about playing the game that they love, even though they are now professional athletes.
So Gio throwing the Knight out from the back. We haven't seen a ton of Knight in 1v1.
Every time we've seen it, though, coupled with the Tombstone, however, it's been that Graveyard, Baby Dragon, Ice Wiz control style of deck.
Well, not to snipe myself here on the stream, but I have been playing a Knight in my Graveyard deck lately as well.
They're going to be looking out for you, Rich.
And there you go, perfect call. It is the Graveyard with some Baby Dragon support and getting a lot more damage than you might have expected here on the left-hand side.
Wow. And even still, you've got the bench of the bench of Complexity cheering on Adrian despite this rough start.
Down to 727, and we've been talking a lot lately about how Graveyard has not had a lot of success in 1v1, but in a position here to potentially get its first win.
Yep, and you see Adrian sacrificing that tower on the left to double down on the right, getting that balloon in, but you know this deck has the Ice Wiz, and you know it has the NATO, 2 cards that make it impossible, almost nearly impossible, I should say, to break through. And there it is, and that's exactly what Adrian Piedra does not want to see, Rich.
Yeah, that Ice Wiz NATO going to make it very difficult for him to find a way through here.
I mean, even with the Baby Dragon and the splash damage, is going to clean up those pups, doing damage to the Lava Hound and to the Balloon. Plus, with the Tombstone and the NATO, this seems like an impossible matchup for Adrian. However, we have seen that man do things that you and I have thought no one could do in CRL.
We definitely have seen the impossible happen here. And one more thought about this matchup is that, you know, it's a 12 elixir push for Adrian to get that the Lava Hound and the Balloon down behind it. And even with the rest of that, the rest of his deck isn't necessarily cheap. It seems like Gio will always be able to have that Ice Wiz and Tornado ready every time he needs it.
Well, he's got the luxury of not having to deal with a lot of ground troops, right? So he can cycle that Knight and he can cycle that Tombstone whenever he needs to cycle a card. And then if push came to shove, he can even cycle the Log, because the only thing he has to respond to are those guards. So, once again, Gio in a commanding lead because of the matchup.
So this is going to be it for game number 1. I mean, a Balloon has snuck through crazy in the past, but with this tower now also looking like it might go down, It is Geo in the position, so yes, that tower's going to go down, so even if the balloon did sneak through, but it won't. There we go. Graveyard taking the win over Lavaloon.
And you see the slight smirk on Geo's face, and you also see the face of Adrian kind of wondering what happened in that very first game. He's got another one to come back, but that is not the way he wanted to start off today. And this very, very initial push, that Baby Dragon coupled with the Graveyard did so much damage. The Baby Dragon has a lot of health.
It's kind of surprising, you know, I want to see what was in his hand there because it looked like he had plenty of elixir to defend against that push, just couldn't put it together. And it's the Tornado and the Ice Whiz, such a nasty combination, especially when someone's running a Lavaloon deck.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, one of the absolute most frustrating matchups for Adrian. Like we said, the Tombstone coupled with the Ice Whiz, with the Baby Dragon and the NATO, there was basically no way he was going to break through. So now, in game number 2, he's got to change up his deck to make sure Geo doesn't have him countered.
One game in the pocket now for Geo. One game away from sending this thing to King of the Hill. Adrian Page looking to get one back.
Let's go, Adrian.
Both benches now exploding with support for their players. Geo doing a really good job of pumping up his squad, and why not? Over the last 8 games of 1v1, he has been crazy impressive. Of course, there was the 4-game set against C McHugh, where he lost the first, won the second, tied the third, and then won over by lowest tower rules in that 4th extra game. And then, of course, as we talked about it ad nauseum at this point, that clinic he put on with Vulcan didn't come out on top that one, but another 4-game set where he showed his skills were top-notch.
Yeah, and you talk about the celebration of each bench, the energy of each bench, and even people online after wins have questioned, like, why is everyone freaking out? Remember, these guys have moved from all over the world to compete in a game. This is their dream. Every single game, everything is on the line, and that was a great tornado by Geo.
A great tornado, but a lot of damage on that left-hand tower at the same time. So while the tornado does its job, down to 1767 is that left-hand side.
And it looks like Geo's just going to be running it back once again. Having success in the first game kind of gives him a bit of leeway to feel out Adrian's adjustment to his deck. And it seems he's going to run that Royal Hogs Magic Archer deck. A variation of it, excuse me.
So we've said before Adrian had some struggles earlier in the season, but lately he's been pretty nasty, especially in 1v1. He swept Frost of 100 Thieves for their 6th win, and against Immortals, he did beat Royal in 3 games and nearly reverse swept King of the Hill before losing to Royal in the very last game of that one loss for Complexity.
Yeah, and Royal also has now emerged as one of the heads-up players to be worried about in this league.
Oh, for sure, yeah. There's a lot of people making statements here about where they belong in the Clash Royale world, and Royal has been one of those people, but Adrian Piedra, again, not just in 1v1, but also remember in King of the Hill, he is 4-1. So, well, you know, right now, looking to win this game, we don't know how the full set will turn out. If it does go to 1v1, that's a place where he's also had a chance to shine.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually kind of surprised that Geo's been struggling throughout this game. Having the Tombstone, the Ice Whiz, and the NATO, and the Baby Dragon, and the King Tower activated, it really does feel like those Royal Hogs shouldn't be able to break through.
And now sucking all those together with the Tornado.
Great job.
There you go, pulling those out with the Baby Dragon. But, you know, maybe a lot of this has been the timing of Adrian Piedra finding opportunities when those cards aren't available to get through. And here, a little bit of damage, but also forcing them to make some responses.
Yeah, and a very real thing that pros have talked about in this game is having to adjust your cycle. Maybe you start off with a bad card cycle or one that isn't complementary to defending your opponent's pushes, and you have to adjust it throughout the game by taking some damage, throwing away some cards, and now maybe Geo's in a much better place to defend throughout the rest of this.
Geo going Graveyard again and making it work pretty well again now that we are deep into overtime. It's potential that Adrian Piedra may get beat by Graveyard twice in a row.
And that Magic Archer is going to, oh, nice pickup with the Knight. Really heads up play, and you hear CLG's bench celebrating that Knight. Small play, but a huge moment.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how many shots that Magic Archer is getting off. If those have been on tower, this could be a very different moment for CLG.
Ooh, and that Baby Dragon not getting close enough to the Princess Tower to tank for it would have been a really, really great moment for Geo. However, still getting a good amount of damage, and that Baby Dragon will get a couple belches. Picked up by the Magic Archer.
So, I was going to say, every time that these Royal Hogs come down, it seems like Geo has figured out his defensive cycle. And what's nice about this setup for him is that he is getting counter pushes. So the way he's playing defense is leaving troops on the board to then go pressure the opposite side.
And those Magic Archers just are not connecting the way that Adrian would like. And Geo now slightly pulling away with this set.
Down to 5:14, a minute 30 left in overtime. Adrian Piedra, it's decision-making time, I think, at this point. We've seen a lot of questions about what you do when you're getting down into potential draw territory. We just had that big one last match. So it's a question now for Adrian Piedra. Can I defend enough over a minute to keep this thing alive? With the poison in play, I just don't think so.
No way. And you gotta wonder if this was all done by CLG's analyst, the boy needs a raise, because that was an insane 2 counter decks to Adrian Piedra. He had no answers. There was no way. He got that initial tower damage early on, but like I said, it was probably because Geo had to adjust his cycle. And Rich, you see these Royal Hogs coming down over and over, and there's just so many answers.
Well, look at the way the poison picked up the Magic Archer in the back. So we've seen the Magic Archer used a lot lately to take out those tombstones, but the poison play on tower and Magic Archer clearing that out and not letting the Magic Archer get rid of the tombstone.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Geo throughout this match is he would allocate so much elixir to make sure that Magic Archer never got value, whether it was poison at the river or NATOing together, whatever he needed to do to take away that card, and honestly, that worked amazing.
So the slight changes here for for CLG have been so impactful. Yes, they took that loss against TSM, but it was a good loss. It wasn't a loss where they walked away with their head sunk low. And so far, it seems like the skills backstab duo, despite losing, that's a good position for them. They've put up competitive matches. And Geo now, in the 1v1, has been big time for his squad. And now here we go, once again to King of the Hill. And it's a place where, against Complexity, a lot of danger. Both teams now coming up with new card bans and new lineups to see who will get those 3 wins and the match victory.
All right, boys. King of the Hill, we got here. We know we can beat them, okay? Remember that. The bans are Prince and 3 Musketeers. We're gonna go with this lineup. Back to the first. Skills. And me. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna come out to me. So let's go out there. Let's beat Complexity.
What the?
CLG on 3?
Yeah. One,
One,
two,
two,
three. CLG!
We're Complexity, guys. We're Complexity. We've seen great teams win and then fall. You know that we are different. You know it. There's only one way that we do that. And we answer this test, guys, is we go out there, we play out of our minds. Okay? Each of you guys have the ability to go out there and sweep. You got it in you. All right? Find that level. Find that level. Prove it. All right? Let's go take it, guys.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's go.
1, 2, 3. Complexity!
Complexity Gaming began the season 6-0 and was seemingly unbeatable. Now, Counter Logic has pushed them to the brink of another defeat. Will Complexity return to form, or will CLG triumph? The answers lie in King of the Hill.
A lot of intensity on the benches, intensity in the war rooms. Geo telling Counter Logic Gaming, we want it more. Although, looking at what Matt Rutledge just said to his squad, telling them to prove it, I can't imagine that anyone wants it more than that Complexity squad right now.
Yeah, Matt Rutledge asking his team to find that next level, kick it into that next gear, but Backstab, Skills, and Geo from CLG have something to say about it. These guys need the win more than Complexity does. However, you hop over to Complexity's roster. We got Razzer kicking it off, Colton in the middle, and their 1v1 specialist Adrian to close it out. Like Matt said, They might need it more, but we want it more.
A quick correction, Colton going to be leading off here in King of the Hill for Complexity. Let's look at those ban cards for a second. It's going to be 3 Musketeers and Prince off the board.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've seen the 3 Musketeers banned, Rich, but we've seen how effective that 3 Musketeer Royal Hogs deck is.
And maybe it's a thing that CLG doesn't want to go up against. Of course, we've talked a lot about how important the research is, those analysts figuring out ways to stop the opponent. So maybe they see something about Complexity that they want to get off the board. So here we go. King of the Hill, first to 3, takes it all.
This room is electric, Rich. I love it.
These two squads are so pumped up in a way we really haven't seen before, and a big part of that is that this is crunch time. We're in the second half of the season. You don't have 13, 12, 10 games in front of you. It's starting to come down to the wire.
Yeah, this is the push for the playoffs, man, and Backstab here, hopping into the very first game of this King of the Hill set, has yet to find a win in a 1v1 set or a King of the Hill game. His head-to-head win rate is only 1 in 4. However, he is an incredible heads-up player.
Colton also, despite being one of the more decorated head-to-head players here at CRL, has not found his stride. Now, to be fair, he's also now 15-3 and 1 in 2v2, so when you're carrying your team in that way, maybe you're not worried about head-to-head as much. Oh yeah, exactly, that tornado almost but not quite doing its job.
Yep, and Backstab giving him just a slight bit of BM there, and you got to imagine exactly it's going to be that same graveyard deck that Gio was running.
So fascinating choices here. Now going with Graveyard 3 times in a row is Counter Logic Gaming, looking to prove that Graveyard does have a place in the competitive meta.
Yeah, and you know, if Backstab can take this game with that deck once again, we might just see this deck being the new Graveyard meta.
A minute 30 down in regulation time, and Backstab's towers both remain completely untouched. A bit of damage on the left-hand side for Colton.
I mean, you got to imagine Colton may be running a Graveyard deck as well. He could also just be running a control. We saw that Cannon Cart Ice Wiz Tornado control deck for a while, but it was usually coupled with a Graveyard.
And a second Graveyard down, and the poison now in response.
Yep, and if Colton has it the way that he likes, he will never use that poison for anything other than either the game win or the Graveyard cleanup.
And now we're seeing the opposite lane exactly. As soon as you see that Mega Minion down, you're thinking maybe tanking for the Graveyard, and Backstab has his own poison in response.
Yes, so right now Backstab in a commanding position because he got that initial tower damage, and both these guys have poison, and both of them have Graveyard as the win condition. However, that Cannon Cart in Colton's hand is very scary.
That Cannon Cart can change everything in a second, and right now, the Knight picking it up nicely, and the Ice Wiz. So Backstab playing a fairly fast deck, and that Cannon Cart pretty expensive, giving some options for Backstab to respond. So regulation time coming to a close, and now Colton deciding to go Tombstone behind the Princess Tower to prepare for that next Graveyard.
Yep, and that's exactly what you want to do when you have a Tombstone in hand. And now Colton trying to capitalize on that elixir spent by Backstab, but it's not going to happen.
But he is getting the distraction here, so some nice tanking going on. The poison down in defense. A Barbarian Barrel.
What are those?
Is that the first time we've seen Barbarian Barrel here at CRL?
I mean, 100% in 1v1. We may have seen it once in 2v2 early on, but I can't confirm that, Rich. That is a big surprise from Colton. And again, Complexity with their deck makeup, very interesting.
The skeleton spawn being kind to Backstab right there, giving him a few pretty solid hits, so down to 259.
Oh, wow.
But he has to defend, and this is the idea behind that Barbarian Barrel, I think, is getting a response in there, a potential kind of quick pop-up tank.
And that Knight went too far behind the tower. That Ice Wiz didn't come down. We could have seen a very sneaky win by Colton. However, it does seem that Backstab is going to take this very first game in King of the Hill.
The Barbarian Barrel doing its best to stop this, but no, that is going to be it. Backstab taking Colton out, so CLG pumped up, now just 2 wins away from taking down the #1 team in North America.
And Backstab has to feel great getting that very first King of the Hill win, loosening up his shoulders, feeling the victory glaze over him, if you will.
And, you know, this was the story, the graveyard play of Backstab, just finding openings and not giving Colton any real opportunity to get a foothold.
Yeah, Backstab did a really, really great job. I mean, both these guys having poison in hand, being able to respond to that graveyard. Backstab found other ways to commit damage to Colton's tower. Colton did a pretty good job keeping up. You know, at the very end there, we saw that Mega Minion on the tower in the last final few seconds, but not quite enough in the tank for Colton. So now, Razzer is going to step up to the plate and see if he can bring it home for complexity.
You know, I'm wondering about that Barbarian Barrel. We didn't see it until very late in the game. Would that possibly have been a decent, at least, way to clean up that midway point of the graveyard, or was Colton saving it for a surprise move late in the game?
Exactly that, Rich. I believe that he was saving it for a surprise move because it is such a cheap card. It probably could have been used in defense early on, but we'll find out what happens here in Game 2.
Let's go, Razzer!
Razzer, top of your screen, Backstab X still at the bottom. King of the Hill stays on the hill, so Backstab 1 down, 2 to go, but across from him, it is the King Killer himself with a record of 6-2 in King of the Hill.
Yeah, I mean, you almost forget about how great of a head-to-head player Razzer is because it's all been kind of overshadowed by his incredibly dominant performance in 2v2.
And, you know, I'd have to get a double check on this, but with the 2 wins in 2v2 earlier today, moving his total number of wins across all sets in games to 21, he might be the first person to break the 20-win mark here at CRL North America.
That's a good point. And here's an interesting thing that we saw earlier today when a Lava Loon deck met a deck that was basically a bridge spam, and that's that there aren't a lot of ground responses. So now we're going to see how Backstab deals with this. Now he's going to take a tower here, but also he's got to be able to defend.
So the P.E.K.K.A taking that right-hand tower all the way down and making a beeline for the King Tower as well. Yes, that Princess Tower goes down, but that Lava Loon push is going to get stopped here.
Exactly, and so now both of these guys with an early tower trade have to decide how they want to move going forward. Do we go for the 2 crown? Do we go for the 3 crown? What do we do?
Backstab getting a little more damage there on that King Tower. The E-Wiz still alive for quite a long time, so you got to expect that Razzer will be cycling back to that card fairly quickly to anticipate the next balloon push coming in.
So now the guards are out of cycle for Backstab, which is why you saw the battle ram come down, because the only other response is the Tombstone, and this is going to be Razzer's game. He's got to figure out how to get the ground responses out of cycle, and then in turn punish him with either the battle ram or the P.E.K.K.A, things like that.
Could we see, and there we go, I was about to say, could we see an aggressive P.E.K.K.A making a beeline for the tower, and there it is. So can Backstab get around quickly enough to stop this? I don't know. We might get 2 or 3 big P.E.K.K.A swings. The Tombstone gets on, very, very important pickup, and that is some nice defense. So both players now knowing how they need to rotate to play defense. It's going to be the first person to make a mistake who loses this game.
I mean, these guys both, like you said, playing excellent, excellent defense, adjusting to their opponent's cycle and their opponent's strategy, and then in turn kind of doing their own. And this is one of the few times we've seen like naked P.E.K.K.As dropped on the other side of the river, just ready to go. However, the guards in the Tombstone, very, very good at distracting it.
So the poison not doing all that Razzer would have liked, and now some slick defense coming through from Backstab. You know, hasn't played to his best earlier on in the season, but this is a veteran. He's played in pretty much every major event we've had in Clash Royale, so he knows how to make these moves, and now he's the one putting Razzer in trouble.
Yeah, and that was a very, very minor misplay by Backstab, having that Mega Minion played a little high. It got in front of the Lava Hound, whereas if it was behind it, he may have gotten another few hundred damage on that tower.
So now Razzer opting to change directions and go into the fully healthy Princess Tower. And that might have been a distraction, a deception here to make room for this P.E.K.K.A. And now we have the P.E.K.K.A making a beeline for the tower, but it's going to be a bit of a race here. We have the balloon going for the Princess Tower, and I don't know if Razzer has any response to stop it. The P.E.K.K.A goes down. That's going to be it. Now that's Backstab X taking down Razzer as well. Oh my gosh, Backstab now 1 game away from sweeping King of the Hill against Complexity.
And this is a huge moment for both teams. Obviously, Complexity looking at their second loss, and then CLG looking to move up in the standings with a win over the #1 team in the NA. And Backstab just playing at the top of his game here, always using those guards to distract, always keeping one of his 2 responses to either the P.E.K.K.A. or the Battle Ram in cycle. And you saw him, knowing he could take the damage here, going hard with the balloon. Really, really excellent play, Rich.
Razzer going for blood here, and now in retrospect, of course, we get the benefit of hindsight. You got to wonder in retrospect if going for blood that same way and kind of exposing himself to some of that balloon play was the right move.
I mean, I liked the initial P.E.K.K.A. that he dropped aggressively. I thought it was a good way to kind of catch Backstab off guard, but then you saw it the second and the third time, and it was just so easily dealt with. So now we've got Adrian Piedra coming in for Complexity, having to do a reverse sweep.
And he's done it before. It's possible. Game number 3 underway. Let's be fair. Let's be clear. Adrian Piedra hasn't done the full reverse sweep. He did get the clutch the last 2 games against TSM, taking out Vulcan and Firewolf. He almost reverse swept in the last match against Immortals, lost to Royal in the very final game. And here, a tall order in front of him, Backstab X, Skills, and Geo. So needing 3 wins in a row to preserve that just 1 loss for Complexity.
I mean, we've seen it happen before. Recently, Asuchini did it, that 3-person sweep. Anyone can do it. They're all capable here at CRL. But again, a very tall order for Adrian. And it looks like Backstab is running that same graveyard deck that him and Geo are so fond of.
Remember your ban cards here, Prince and the 3 Musketeers. And you're right, there it comes. The Poison and Valkyrie, though, some much better responses in the hand of Adrian Piedra.
Yeah, and in turn, it looks like Adrian will be running a graveyard deck as well.
So expect to see the videos out, at least if not tomorrow, the day after Graveyard, the new meta.
Well, it's so interesting. You know, yesterday, as I said, we sat down with the 4 NA teams, and they all were discussing how Graveyard didn't really seem to be working here at CRL. And today, these NA teams have something else to say about it.
Well, it just takes a couple of minor shifts. You know, you take one card, replace it with another, shift the way the deck is played, and suddenly something can become much more viable. And in both cases here, these graveyards with more of a control aspect to them paying off.
Yeah, I mean, we see basically the Mega Minion and the Cannon Cart being swapped out for the Baby Dragon in the Night, some of the biggest changes there. And the Baby Dragon is a wonderful response to Graveyard, especially coupled with the Log. It really isn't going to get more than a few hundred damage in.
And this is looking very familiar. It's Backstab out to an early lead with the Graveyard deck, switching lanes in response to all those tombstones. But again now, especially with only 40 seconds remaining in our standard time, big questions here. Is a lead like that going to be insurmountable for Adrian to come back from?
And we keep seeing Backstab doing that. He'll go in with the Baby Dragon on his graveyard push and then use the NATO to get all the defending troops on top of the Princess Tower, and then his Baby Dragon does additional splash damage. So a really, really great synergy between those two, and we're going to see if it's going to happen again right now. And that is it. Adrian moving that Valkyrie up closer to avoid that from happening once again.
Still getting pulled together, all those troops, and a little bit more chip damage from the Log. So Adrian Piedra needs to find a way through on that tower, but it's starting to look very grim, especially with all the answers Backstab has in his hand for a graveyard deck.
Yeah, Backstab playing this exactly how he wants to, and you can tell he's feeling the energy. He is vibing right now, throwing out the BMs, thanking his opponents for making mistakes, and that is a frustrating position to be in if you are Complexity. However, Backstab using all the tools at his disposal to make his opponents let it be known that he's here to win.
Do you want it more? Backstab saying, yes, I do, and it's been such a frustrating road here at CRL. You know, splitting his games in 2v2, still with a losing record there overall. And then 1v1, he struggled. King of the Hill, he struggled. But right now, looking like the player that everyone remembers from those early days of Clash Royale.
Yeah, Backstab having a great moment here in King of the Hill, and this is a very, very big defense he's got coming up. And he deals with it very well.
A little extra help, though, on those last two skeletons, so Adrian Piedra fighting to stay alive. We have less than 2 minutes remaining in overtime.
And that NATO should be able, he should be able to NATO them closer together on that Princess Tower, but it must be out of cycle or he just doesn't want to overcommit.
So about 450 health points separating these two.
This is huge, Rich. I mean, it almost feels like now Backstab is on his heels and Adrian is in the driver's seat. Now Backstab is still playing great defense. However, look at that. All of a sudden, the damage has swung in the opposite favor.
And even with this Baby Dragon coming down, Adrian Piedra has a lot of elixir to defend here, although the poison in this case, this is a brilliant poison, doing a lot of damage on tower and cleaning up a lot of those defensive troops. So now Adrian Piedra getting into dangerous spell cycle range as we enter the final minute if we need it. Remember, the player with the lowest health remaining on a single tower will take the loss in this case. So those extra bits of spell damage, huge and important. Got to keep every single hit point available for your tower.
Wow, these guys just playing this graveyard matchup masterfully against one another. However, it does appear Backstab is going to pull off the entire sweep of complexity. I mean, he's a spell away, Rich. One spell.
He's a spell away, but we've seen crazier stuff happen, although with those two tombstones in the back, getting a graveyard successfully on that tower going to be hard. The log cycles through. It's Backstab now with the poison, and there you go.
Has done it.
The Clash Royale North American Open champion, the top 200 of ladder. This is the guy. Backstab X shows that he still belongs here at Clash Royale.
And a huge moment for him. This is big for Backstab. He needed this. Now 3-2 in his King of the Hill sets, taking the win over complexity, moving CLG up the standings. This is everything they dreamed of. Backstab skills, Laddie and Geo for CLG.
OP War Room talk from Geo saying we want it more, and Backstab deciding, yes, I do. Kind of imposing his will on all three opponents.
Yeah, and really, really showing everyone here at CRL that Knight Baby Dragon Graveyard deck is something to be feared and something to analyze.
Yeah, I expect we'll see a lot more Graveyard over this next couple of days on the Grand Challenge, so everyone get ready at home, folks. And, you know, this was the really interesting story. We had so much happening, damage on the left-hand side, and Backstab going, fine, if you're going to overload tombstones on the left, I will go right. And now forcing the action to take place where he wants it. And here's the finish. We're down, this was that big poison I talked about earlier. That poison taking care of both of those defensive troops, preventing the ability to mount a counter push and doing much needed, very important damage on the tower.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Adrian for adjusting throughout. When he recognized that NATO was going to come down every time to try to get troops on top of his Princess Tower for the Baby Dragon, he split up where he was dropping troops and made it a much, much closer game than originally anticipated, Rich.
And that, I mean, close it was, but Backstab and Geo both going on a 5-game run for CLG after dropping the 2v2 set. It looked like it would be complexity one more time, but Counter Logic Gaming finding their stride, and now the hero of today's match, waiting to be interviewed by our friend Christy St. John, it's Backstab.
Thanks, guys. Backstab, a beautiful King of the Hill sweep. Tell me, how does it feel to take down the #1 ranked team in North America?
Well, we took down #2 last week, and then we took down #1 today. So we're definitely upsetting some teams over here. So never count us out. Every week we're working to get better and better.
Now, Razzer said at the beginning that they had a new strategy. We saw a lot of Graveyard in the 2v2 and the 1v1 set. Did that affect your strategy going into King of the Hill?
No, not at all. What's it called? My team is reassured that, I used to be one of the best players in the world. I took a long break, and they're like, hey, man, we know you can come out and you can do it again. And they've been, just there every step of the way, helping me out, as well as my coach, Coach Barron. He's been supporting us tremendously, and everyone at COG.
Yeah, used to be no longer. You are absolutely making your place here in CRL. Thanks so much for talking to me. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Backstab all smiles here after getting a huge win in a huge spot. Of course, he feels fantastic, not only for himself, but for his squad, which doesn't move up in the standings, but takes an all-important win.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Not a lot of movement in the chart, but a lot of movement in momentum. Now Counter Logic Gaming is tied with Team Solomid. At 5th, well, not at tied, but they're at the same record. Team Solomid has the win over them, and then you got Complexity at the top. Now it's 6-2. They are so close from losing that #1 position to either Cloud9 or Immortals.
Those two 6 and 3 squads in very good position to take that spot. Of course, Immortals already has 1 win. Cloud9 waiting for the rematch to split the series of the season. Remember, that #1 spot's so important. You get 2 buys, a first and second round buy. So whoever ends up in that top spot has a much easier road to our World Finals. And of course, you can follow all the action here at the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page. Make sure you hit subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell so that you can get notifications for all the upcoming matches. Of course, go to esports.clashroyale.com for your roster information and all of your standings. And you can go to the Clash Royale Esports tab inside your app in the news section. Make sure to check us out there. We will be back tomorrow with more North American action. For Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you mañana back here in the arena.
Woo! The Backstabber thus ends another action-packed, spell-filled jaunt in the arena. Dazzling, heroic, jaw-dropping, and the intensity will only escalate as the playoffs grow near. I'm so excited! Time for a little confession. I love every second of the Clash Royale League, and I watch it all. I mean everything. Believe it or not, you can too. All you need to do is subscribe to the Clash Royale Esports channel. And remember, no matter what you do, the Three Musketeers will never, ever let you join their crew. They don't need a fourth, apparently. That's what they told me anyway.